The first thing I noticed was the child's drawing on the windshield. Crayon, red and green scribbles. A house, a woman, a man, and a tiny girl standing between them with a crooked smile and one eye bigger than the other. Underneath, in wobbly print, "I miss you, Dad." I hadn't told anyone where I moved. No forwarding address. No phone. No social media. I paid rent in cash and used a fake name for my utilities. This town wasn't on most maps. I checked. So how did she find me? And more importantly, why now? 6 years ago, I vanished during the night like a coward. I left behind a house full of furniture, a dog that wasn't mine, and a newborn baby with a birthmark that glowed under hospital lighting like a warning sign from the universe. I left with nothing but the clothes on my back and a receipt from a gas station DNA lab I visited in secret. You ever see someone cradle a baby like it's glass, whisper promises like, "I'll protect you forever," while knowing it's not yours? That was me, in the hospital hallway, staring through the nursery glass like an actor in someone else's movie. Callie told me the baby was early. She laughed when she said it. Early like her dad, always rushing. But I wasn't early. I was out of town for 5 weeks straight when she supposedly conceived. My sister's wedding in Milwaukee, then a sales conference in Atlanta. I had receipts, pictures, GPS logs. She knew that. She packed my bags herself. I remember texting her one night during the trip, asking if she missed me. She sent back a single word. Always. Turns out, she wasn't lying. She missed me because someone else was there with her. I didn't plan to run. But the moment the paternity test came back, something inside me snapped like a frozen tree limb. No anger. No screaming. Just silence. Stillness. Cold clarity. I left the keys on the counter. I even folded the laundry before I walked out. That's the worst part, honestly. I folded her clothes like a good little ghost. And now, all these years later, I'm living in a one-bedroom cabin behind a bait shop in a place where people still wave at strangers. And she found me. She sent a picture of our old mailbox. Burned. Just that. No message. Just a photo of it collapsed in ashes. I stared at it for 10 minutes before I noticed the shape hidden in the corner. A tiny outline in the soot, like a child's handprint. 5 perfect fingers. I haven't slept since. And something tells me she isn't coming alone. The drawing on my windshield had only just begun to rattle me when the package arrived. No label. No sender. Just a plain brown box placed dead center on my porch. Not tossed or shoved, but set there with eerie intention, like whoever left it wanted me to admire their precision. I stood over it for 20 minutes before opening it. It was early morning. The sky outside looked bruised, like something had punched the sun in its face. Inside the box was a photograph, the corners burned and curling like dying leaves. I could smell the char the moment I peeled the cardboard open, that sharp, chemical tang of scorched ink. The photo was of our old house, or what was left of it. It was mostly roofless, skeletal, glass shattered, porch caved in, paint blistered off like it was trying to peel away from the memory. Across the bottom of the photo, written in thick black marker, was a single date, February 31st. I stared at that number until my eyes dried out. I turned the photo over. Nothing. No message. Just that impossible date. It doesn't exist. That's what gnawed at me most. It wasn't threatening. It was wrong. It wasn't just a trick or a message. It was a psychological fracture. A joke without a punchline. I'd built my new life carefully. Quiet town. Cash jobs. No paper trail. I paid my rent 6 months at a time, never used the same grocery store twice. But here I was, holding a burned image of the life I walked out on, with a timestamp carved out of unreality. I thought maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it was a prank. But deep down, I knew the flavor of Callie's madness. This was her. This was her handwriting. Slanted left. Capital letters too tall. Like she always wrote to be heard. I didn't call the police. What would I say? Hi. I abandoned my wife and the child she lied to me about. Disappeared for 6 years. And now she's sending me evidence that time might be unraveling? No thanks. I needed to know what she wanted, what she was after. If she was trying to scare me, it was working. I called my brother, Corbin. We hadn't spoken since I left. When I disappeared, I didn't just ghost my wife. I ghosted everyone. I wanted no roots, no ties. I changed my name to Laldine. I signed nothing, subscribed to nothing, never stayed anywhere longer than 12 months. But I knew Corbin might still pick up. He was stubborn that way. He answered with the voice of someone who hadn't been woken up but hadn't slept in days. Is this real? He said. That was all. Not hello. Not, where have you been? Just that. I told him yes, and that I thought Callie had found me. There was a long pause, and then he said the thing that made my spine go numb. She came to me last year. With the kid. What? I couldn't process the words. You saw her? And the girl? She showed up at my office, Merritt. Just appeared. Said she was looking for you. Said you might be sick. Said the girl needed to see you one last time. She didn't stay long. Just left a box of old photos and vanished. You didn't tell me? You vanished off the face of the ing earth. You think I had a number to call? He was right. I'd buried myself so deep even my shame had forgotten me. But that made the box even more chilling. If she had found Corbin a year ago, then this wasn't new. She'd been tracking me. Slowly. Patiently. Like a hunter circling the last deer in the forest. Later that night, I got curious. I started researching February 31st. At first, all I got were calendar jokes, weird leap year memes, Reddit threads full of nonsense. But then I stumbled on something buried in a dusty archive of esoteric myths, a mention of ghost dates. Phantom timestamps that people claimed appeared on receipts, prescriptions, even death certificates. According to fringe lore, February 31st wasn't just a mistake. It was a placeholder, a date used for things that weren't meant to happen. I was still reading when the power went out. Total blackout. No wind, no storm, no warning. My flashlight barely worked. I lit a match and sat in the dark, listening. The silence was too clean, like something was holding its breath outside my window. When the power came back 2 hours later, there was a receipt slid under my door. It was from a motel 2 towns away. Dated February 31st, room 6B. Paid in cash. And the name on it? Merritt D. Holt. My real name. The one I hadn't used in 6 years. I didn't sleep the night I got that receipt. I laid in bed fully clothed, shoes on, staring at the ceiling as the furnace rattled like something alive. I kept the motel slip folded in my hand like a dead man's letter, rereading the impossible date, the inked name that didn't belong to this version of me, and the chilling familiarity of the handwriting. Tall, leaning left, each letter a whisper screaming I see you. By sunrise, I wasn't debating anymore. I knew I had to go. The motel was 50 miles away, just off a state highway that didn't exist on any digital map. I had to print directions off a back-end real estate site that listed it as vacant. I packed a bag, flashlight, crowbar, my old passport, and a burner phone I hadn't touched since the first year I disappeared. It didn't turn on. I didn't blame it. Even machines have the right to forget. The road was nearly empty the whole way there. No other cars for miles. Just roadkill, silence, and the kind of desert heat that feels like it wants to peel your skin off and wear it. When I finally found the motel, I nearly drove past it. It didn't look like anything. Just a sun-bleached sign that said "Rest Well" in faded red letters, half the neon missing, the other half flickering like a dying firefly. The parking lot was gravel. No cars. No visible staff. No front office. Just a row of doors like teeth in a crooked smile, most boarded up or sunken in. But room 6B wasn't boarded. Its door was newer. Paint clean. Numbers polished. Someone had been here. I sat in the car for 10 minutes. Keys still in the ignition, heart rattling in my chest like a shopping cart wheel. I thought maybe I'd hallucinated the whole thing. That this was some drawn-out breakdown finally cashing in after years of avoidance and fake names and quiet guilt. But then I noticed something. A child's handprint. On the passenger window. Greasy. Fresh. Just one. I stepped out of the car slowly, every nerve in my body screaming at me to turn around. But I couldn't. There's a point where fear turns into momentum. And once you're rolling, stopping feels more dangerous than going forward. The doorknob to room 6B was cold. Not cool, cold. Unnaturally so. I touched it, then pulled my hand back, like I'd touched dry ice. Then, stupidly, I knocked. Not hard. Just once. A formality. A peace offering to whatever might be inside. No one answered. I opened the door. Inside was wrong. Not dramatic. Not horrific. Just off. The air was too still. Like it had been vacuum sealed. The room looked unused, but not abandoned. The bed was made. Dustless. A child's backpack sat neatly in the corner. Purple with a faded unicorn patch. The TV was unplugged, but humming faintly. and on the dresser sat a baby monitor. One of those old analog ones with static and a green blinking light. The moment I stepped inside, the door shut behind me. I froze. Didn't move. Didn't breathe. Then, the baby monitor crackled. Just static. For 10 seconds. Then a voice. A child's voice. Daddy. 2 syllables. Soft. Unsure. Real. I felt my knees go weak. I stumbled to the dresser and grabbed the monitor, staring into it like it would explain everything. It didn't. Just kept blinking. Silent again. Then came the knock. This time, it was behind the bathroom door. 3 knocks. Slow. Measured. Echoing. I didn't want to answer it. Every instinct told me to leave, to run and never stop. But this was a thread, and I was the kind of idiot who pulls even when he knows it'll unravel the whole sweater. I opened the bathroom door. It was empty, except for a Polaroid photo taped to the mirror. Me, holding the child, in that very motel room, smiling. I never took that picture. And taped under it was another motel receipt. Same room, same name. Only this time, the date wasn't February 31st. It was next week. I stood in that motel bathroom longer than I care to admit, my hand hovering just inches from the photo taped to the mirror. It was starting to curl at the corners, not from time, but from heat. I hadn't noticed until then how warm the bathroom was. Stifling. Too warm for a room with no working radiator and a ceiling fan barely moving. It smelled like hotel soap and old plastic. That sickly, sterile scent of something pretending to be clean. But the photo, that's what really made me sick. It showed me Merritt D. Holt standing in front of the same dresser I'd just touched, holding a child. A little girl, maybe 4 or 5, with jet black hair and the same eyes I used to see in the mirror before I became someone else. In the photo, I'm smiling. Calm. Present. The kind of smile I haven't worn in years. She's holding on to me like it's the most natural thing in the world. But I never took that picture. I never held that child. Not in this place. Not ever. I pulled the photo off the mirror, nearly ripping it. Behind it was the second motel receipt. Room 6B again, still under my old name, still paid in cash. But this one was dated next week. 7 days from now. As if someone was daring me to come back. That's when I realized something even worse. The backpack in the corner, the purple one with the unicorn patch, it was gone. I checked the bed. Under it. Behind the dresser. I tore the room apart quietly, like a man searching for a ticking bomb with no sound. Nothing. Vanished. The backpack hadn't made noise, hadn't moved while I was in the bathroom. It simply wasn't there anymore. I stumbled out into the hallway, lightheaded and unsteady. The sun had shifted behind thick clouds while I was inside, casting everything in a flat, lifeless gray. The air had that pressure, like the moments before a lightning strike. My car was still in the lot, untouched. But the gravel now had a trail of small, circular footprints, child-sized, leading from the motel door toward the trees behind the building. And they stopped halfway. Just stopped. I followed them like an idiot. Of course I did. Every step into those woods felt like walking into a dream I hadn't agreed to. The motel disappeared behind me within 30 yards. The trees weren't tall, but they were dense, knotted together like they didn't want to let the past back out. That's where I found the journal. It was just lying there, half buried under dead leaves. A small leather-bound notebook with an elastic band wrapped tight around it. Inside were pages of handwriting, tight, cramped, panicked. And all of it was mine. The date started about 6 months after I disappeared. They mentioned people I don't remember meeting, towns I don't remember passing through, jobs I never held. And each entry ended with a number. Always the same number, 831. Some pages had full entries. Others just said, "She found me again." Then the number. I flipped to the last page. No date. Just a single sentence. You're not running from her. You're running from what she made you forget. And underneath that, a name in a child's handwriting. Layla. The name hit me like an airbag. That was the name we'd chosen if we'd had a girl. Callie and I picked it before we ever saw a sonogram. I hadn't heard it in over 6 years. And somehow, seeing it now, in that innocent, wobbling script, felt worse than a scream. I shoved the journal into my bag and ran back to the motel, but it was gone. Gone. Not just empty. Gone. There was just a clearing where the rest well-in had been, gravel swallowed by weeds. No structure, no neon sign. No doors. No room 6B. The space looked like it hadn't held a building in decades. Even the parking stripes were faded into the dirt. And then my phone buzzed. I hadn't touched it in weeks. Didn't even think it worked. But there it was, glowing with a single new text from an unknown number. You forgot her once. I won't let you forget again. And attached to the message was a video. A grainy, shaky clip, taken from inside a house I didn't recognize. The camera sways, then centers. It's me, sitting on a couch, holding Layla, whispering something into her ear. And in the background, just barely visible through the window behind me, is Callie, staring into the lens, expressionless. She was filming. The video kept playing long after I stopped watching it. It looped in my palm, the cracked screen flashing the same sequence over and over. Me holding a little girl, murmuring something inaudible, and Callie filming from behind the window like a ghost witnessing her own haunting. I tried to delete it. Couldn't. The phone wouldn't respond. It wasn't frozen. It simply refused. I smashed it anyway. Rock to screen. Glass to dirt. It took 3 swings before it broke, and even then I was half expecting it to bleed. It didn't. Just shattered silently, like it had been waiting. I drove away from the clearing that used to be the Restwell Inn, fast. Too fast. The dirt road blurred past me in gray streaks, and for a while I wasn't sure if I was moving forward or circling back to somewhere I'd already been. The GPS glitched halfway home, not recalculating, not signal lost, just blank. Like the entire road didn't exist. When I got back to the cabin, I found the lights already on. I never left them on. It was a rule I kept. No signs of occupancy, no habits, no invitations. But every room was lit. And on the kitchen counter sat something I hadn't seen in years. A sippy cup. Pink. Faded. The kind with 2 handles and a chewed-up rubber spout. I picked it up and nearly dropped it. It was warm. Recently used. And the faintest scent of apple juice clung to the inside, like memory made liquid. That night, I dreamed for the first time in years. Not nightmares. Not disjointed flashes. A dream. Vivid, lucid, coherent. I was in a house I didn't recognize, sitting on a couch that felt familiar under my fingers. The walls were soft blue. There was humming coming from the next room. A child's song. Off-key. Ancient. And then she walked in. Layla. I recognized her instantly. Not from the photo, or the video, or the scribbled name in the journal, but instinctively. My brain reacted before my eyes did. She wasn't a stranger. She was mine. She walked over and sat next to me like she'd done it 100 times before, and looked up with those eyes that were Callie's shape, but my color. Why did you leave us? She asked. Her voice was clear, gentle, accusatory in the way only children can manage, not angry, just wounded by a truth they don't understand. I tried to speak, but my throat didn't work. My mouth moved, no sound came. She reached out, touched my hand. Mom said you didn't want to remember, but I do. When I woke up, I was crying. The kind of crying that empties you. Snot, sobs, the full collapse. I hadn't felt anything that pure in years. I didn't know if it was grief, guilt, fear, or some hybrid emotion stitched together by loss and time. But I felt something unignorable. On the pillow beside me was a lock of black hair. Curled, small, like it had been clipped and left as a keepsake. I called Corbin again, told him everything. The journal, the dream, the backpack, the motel that vanished. He didn't interrupt once, just listened. When I finished, I expected silence. Instead, he said, "You need to go to the lake house." I paused. "What lake house?" "Jesus, Merritt," he whispered. "The one you and Callie bought. The one she said you stayed in for 2 months after Layla was born. You painted the nursery there." My stomach turned. I've never seen that place. We never owned a lake house. "Yes, you did," he said flatly. "You were obsessed with it. You disappeared for weeks fixing it up before she gave birth. I visited once. I helped you install blackout curtains. You don't remember any of that?" I didn't. I told him I didn't, and for a while he said nothing. Then finally, "Maybe it's not just her you've been hiding from." He sent me coordinates. A cabin by Lake Eliza, 2 hours north, tucked in between a dense pine forest and a cliffside that dropped straight into deep black water. I'd never been there in my life, or so I thought. But when I looked up satellite images, my body reacted before my brain did. A chill, a breath caught in my chest, a whisper that felt internal. "You left something behind." I printed the map, packed everything, took the journal, the lock of hair, the Polaroid. One bag, one flashlight, no phone. I didn't want to be reached. I left before sunset. As I pulled out of the driveway, I noticed something written in the condensation on the inside of my windshield. Room 6B isn't a place. It's a memory. And underneath that, in the same handwriting that haunted every message I'd received so far, one word, carved into the fog like a promise. Return. The road to Lake Eliza cut through nothing. Not quiet towns or farms or neighborhoods. Just swaths of trees, tight and endless, the kind that seem to lean closer the further you drive, like they're conspiring to keep you in. I didn't see another car for almost an hour. The sky above was overcast in a way that didn't feel natural. It wasn't cloudy. It was just dull, like the light itself had thinned, like the day didn't want to exist too loudly. The GPS wouldn't work, of course. It died 20 minutes into the drive, even though I'd hardwired a backup battery into the mount. Not signal lost. Not loading. Just a black screen with a thin white line across the top, like a dead eye. I kept following the printed map Corbin sent me. It felt stupid and medieval, driving into the unknown with paper creased in my lap like some cursed scavenger hunt. But my hands kept turning the wheel, and my foot kept pressing the gas, even when the road narrowed into a dirt path full of potholes and scattered feathers. I saw the house before I saw the lake. It sat back from the cliff, tucked between two tall pine columns that looked like watchmen. A one-story cabin with a steep roof, green siding, and dark shutters. The kind of place you'd pick for a weekend getaway with a spouse, or to raise a kid you swore you'd protect. It looked small but proud, like it had once been loved. And worse, it looked familiar. I sat in the car for a while, just staring at it. I didn't want to get out. I didn't want to prove Corbin right. But something in my chest was already tightening. That awful kind of pressure your body reserves for places you've been before but don't remember. My fingers shook as I unlocked the door, and the hinges groaned in a way that sounded like someone sighing awake. The air inside was still, heavy with the kind of silence that makes you hesitate before stepping in. There was no dust. That was the first thing I noticed. A cabin this deep in the woods, abandoned for years, should have been caked in the stuff. But the floor was clean. The counters wiped. It didn't feel abandoned. It felt paused. The layout hit me all at once. Living room on the left. Kitchen on the right. Narrow hallway leading to a single bedroom and a bathroom with pale blue tile. The furniture was minimal, but the cushions sagged with memory. There were rings on the coffee table from drinks I must have set down. A small rocking horse in the corner. A dent in the wall near the kitchen counter exactly where someone tall, me, would have hit his shoulder walking past. But the most damning part was the nursery. Yes, there was a nursery. A small back room with light yellow walls and a hand-painted mural of stars and clouds, and a small black cat climbing a crescent moon. The crib was still there. A mobile still hung, turning slowly despite the lack of air movement. There was a drawer half open with tiny onesies inside. Folded, soft, worn. There were photos, too. Framed ones. Set on a shelf above the changing table. One showed me holding Layla. Again, the same child from the motel photo, but this time she's in a high chair, wearing a bib that says Daddy's Moonbeam. And again, I had no memory of this. But I was smiling. Genuinely smiling. The man in that photo didn't look lost. Didn't look haunted. He looked like he was exactly where he belonged. I sat on the floor, unable to breathe. My hands were shaking so violently I had to grip my knees to stop them. I wanted to scream, to tear the room apart, but something kept me anchored. Something beneath the panic. A whisper of recognition. A breath of familiarity that hurt worse than denial. Then I heard the chime. Not a doorbell. Not a phone. A soft, lullaby-like chime echoing from the hallway. I followed it. It was coming from a closet in the hallway. A narrow one, with a pull-chain light. I opened the door slowly. The light bulb above flickered as I pulled the cord, revealing a single cardboard box labeled him. Nothing else. Just one letter, scrawled in marker. Inside were notebooks. Dozens of them. Journals. All in my handwriting. Every page filled with entries about Layla. Her first steps. Her nightmares. Her favorite book, something called The Girl in the Creaking House. Her imaginary friend, named Blue Door. The entries were full of love, of obsession, of protection, and fear. Some ended with a warning to myself. Don't forget. Don't forget. Don't forget. Others ended with the number 831, again and again, over and over, like a countdown or a code. And at the bottom of the box, the voice recorder. I turned it on with a thumb I couldn't control. My heartbeat drowned out the sound for the first few seconds. Then a voice, my voice, filled the room. If you're hearing this, the recording began. It means you remembered something you shouldn't have. It means the wall cracked again. It means she's getting close. There was static, a long pause, then more words, rushed, breathless, terrified. You erased yourself for a reason, Merritt. She wasn't just lying about the baby. She was changing the baby. Changing you. Every time you forget, it gets worse. Don't go back to room 6B. Don't trust the photos. Don't let her say your name. A click. Silence. I dropped the recorder. Outside, the wind picked up violently. A sudden howl against the window like something large and furious had found the house. I turned to leave the nursery, and standing in the hallway was Layla, or something shaped like her. She looked up at me with those impossible eyes and said only one thing before the lights went out. You're remembering too fast. The lights didn't flicker out like a blown fuse. They folded into darkness. That's the only way I can describe it. 1 second I was looking at her, at Layla, or what I thought was her, standing in the hallway with her head tilted and those eyes that were too calm, too clear. The next, she was gone, and I was swallowed in a kind of black that felt intentional, like someone had placed it over me gently but firmly, the way you'd press a hand to someone's mouth when they're about to scream. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. The walls were gone. The floor was gone, and yet I could still feel the house. I knew I hadn't left it. There was weight to the air, like the bones of the cabin were still holding me, pulsing with every breath I didn't take. I tried to close my eyes, but there was no difference between open and shut. Just dark. Endless, watching dark. And then, the nursery came back. Not all at once, not even in pieces. Just sound at first. A mobile turning. Soft footsteps. A lullaby humming in reverse. Then images, flickering like old film, full of grain and stuttered motion. I saw myself. Not in third person. Not like a dream. It was me, but from an angle I couldn't understand, as if the house itself were watching. I was pacing the nursery, barefoot, holding a crying child against my chest, whispering her name over and over like an apology. Her cries weren't loud. They were strangled, panicked, as if she knew more than I did. I watched myself set her down, collapse in the rocking chair, and start writing in one of the journals I'd just found in the hallway closet. The camera, if that's what it was, turned, and standing in the doorway was Callie. She looked wrong. Not physically, but emotionally. She was still. Too still. Her eyes were calm, dry, but her hands were twitching like something in them wanted out. I couldn't hear what she said, but I could see her mouth move. One word, over and over. Stay. The vision blinked, like something disrupted the feed. Then everything shifted again. Now I was in the kitchen. Daylight outside. A suitcase open on the floor. Clothes scattered. I was yelling, but there was no sound. Just fury painted across my face. A shattered mug. A broken photo frame. Callie standing at the far end of the room, holding the baby. Not crying. Not begging. Just watching me like a scientist observes a test subject. She held the child out, extended toward me like a question. I turned away. The house pulsed again. The scene warped. Same room, different time. Callie was gone. The baby was in the high chair, humming to herself, tapping the tray with a plastic spoon. I walked in older, gaunt, hollow-eyed. I sat beside her, said something, and she reached out and touched my face. She mouthed the same phrase again and again, though the vision gave me no sound. You promised you wouldn't forget me. Suddenly the room shook. Hard. Like an earthquake ripping through memory. And I was back, fully back, in the nursery, on the floor, soaked in sweat, heartbeat like a war drum. And she was there. Layla. Real now. I could hear her breathing. She stood beside me, holding one of the notebooks. Not like a child. Like a witness. You erased the day she told you, she said. You made yourself forget. But forgetting doesn't make things untrue. I couldn't speak. I wanted to deny it, but somewhere deep in my chest, I could feel it. Something missing, something I'd helped remove. She stepped closer, handed me the notebook. This is the one that matters. It was the thinnest one. Only a few pages. I opened it. There were just 4 entries. The first was a confession. A real one. I had taken Layla away one night when Callie was asleep. Drove her 3 states away. I'd written, she's not safe with her. She's doing something to her mind. There are gaps. I think I'm forgetting on purpose. I think she's putting things inside us. The second entry was shorter. She found us. But she didn't take Layla. She left a mirror. And when I looked into it, I saw myself giving her back. Smiling. But I don't remember doing it. I think that version of me is still in there. The version she made. The third one simply said, Room 6B is where the mirrors live. The fourth entry wasn't written in my hand. It was a child's handwriting. Daddy, stop looking for memories. Start looking for the truth. I dropped the notebook. Looked up. She was gone. But this time, something else remained in her place. An envelope, taped to the wall behind the crib. It hadn't been there before. Inside was a photo of the three of us. Me, Callie, Layla, standing in front of a door that didn't belong in the house. Metal, blue, no knob, no hinges. And on the back, written in thick red marker, this is where it ends. This is where you broke. I drove through the night without sleeping, without music, without food. The envelope sat on the passenger seat beside me, heavy even though it only held a photo. I kept glancing at the back of it, at the words written in that unmistakable, too familiar hand. This is where it ends. This is where you broke. The photo showed us a family, a real one. Me, Callie, Layla, together in front of a strange blue door with no frame, no knob. Just a surface. Flat. Metal. Smooth. Somewhere in the woods. Somewhere I didn't recognize. Somewhere I must have been. The map led me to a place that barely qualified as Earth anymore. Twisted trees, moss-like skin on the rocks, and a clearing that buzzed with static the moment I stepped into it. I could feel the weight of it before I saw it. The door, standing upright in the middle of a field that hadn't been touched by anything living in a very long time. No building around it. No hinges. Just the door. Exactly like in the photo. Blue, dulled by age. Seamless. I approached slowly. My footsteps felt wrong, like time was dragging my ankles backward. I didn't knock. There was nothing to knock on. I just placed my palm on the surface and said her name. Layla. The world blinked. And then it opened. There was no creak, no sound, no flash of light. Just transition. 1 second I was standing in a dead clearing. The next, I was in a replica of our old home. The first one, the one I left without looking back. Only everything was softer, brighter, slowed, like a memory rebuilt in watercolor. Layla was there, older now, maybe 7, sitting on the carpet, reading a book to herself. She looked up the moment I entered, not surprised, not scared, just waiting. You found the door, she said. I nodded. My voice didn't come right away. When it did, it cracked. Is this real? She shrugged, the way kids do when the truth doesn't matter as much as the feeling. It's the part you needed to finish. I knelt beside her. My knees ached. My chest was a vice. I'm sorry I forgot you. She didn't answer, just reached out and placed something in my hand. The same sippy cup from the cabin. Warm. I forgive you, she said. But you don't have to stay broken. I looked around the room again. The photos on the mantle were shifting, not morphing, not warping, but restoring. Gaps were closing. Faces returning. In one of them, I saw a version of myself I hadn't seen in years. Not haunted, not hunted. Just whole. Smiling. Holding her. You were mine, I whispered. You still can be, she said. And that's when I understood. I hadn't run away because of what she was. I'd run because of what I'd lost believing I couldn't fight to keep her. And now I could choose differently. The house began to fade then, but gently, like dust leaving a windowsill. The colors pulled away, the weight lifted, and the light returned to something ordinary. I felt air again. Earth. My body. My heartbeat. I woke up in the crib room of the lake house. On the floor. Morning sun leaking through the curtains. Birds chirping like nothing had happened. The journals were still there. The envelope, too. But the photo? Gone. In its place was a child's drawing. Stick figures. A house. A blue door. And 3 names written beneath it. Merritt. Callie. Layla. Not as a warning. As a memory. As a promise. I stood. The cabin didn't feel haunted anymore. It felt quiet in a new way. Like a storm had passed, and all it left behind was stillness, not ruin. I packed everything I wanted to keep. The journals, the drawing, the photo of us from the dresser. Then I left. Not because I was running again, but because it was time to start returning. It took me 2 more days to find her. I drove through 2 towns, past an old friend I hadn't seen in years, and made a call I never thought I'd make. And eventually, there she was, Callie, sitting on a bench at a small park, hair wind-blown, face older, but somehow still exactly the same. She saw me and didn't smile, didn't move, just stared. I sat beside her. "I remember now," I said. She nodded. Her voice was quiet when she answered. "So does she." I turned. Layla was standing in the grass, holding a flower. She saw me and ran into my arms.